Our ethos has always been to prove that you can be successful by treating people like decent human beings and values, and just treating people how you would expect to be treated, and be fair with people, and just treat people as adults, and give people enough space to grow and develop and do their job as you would hope them to do it.
Welcome to the Happy Clients Podcast, brought to you by Dot & Company. Whether you're a virtual assistant, an agency owner, or a client-facing account manager, we all deal with clients. Lucky for you, client management is what we do best. Now, let's dig in, chat cam life, and have some fun along the way. Cheers to Happy Clients.
You're a hot ticket these days, Matt.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think so, but it's looking a little dry after this one.
Amazing. Well, welcome to our podcast. We're so happy to have you. And we've been kind of running in the same circle for years. And we've wanted to have you on and just have this chat ever since we started. So we're super excited to have you.
Cool. Well, it's really good it's great that you've invited me on.
Well, we want to know, I guess, everything about Shed Social and yourself. And I love entrepreneur spirit, or even your story and how you got here. So why don't we start there, Matt, if you want to kind of dive in and just let us know how you got to be digital marketing guru, agency owner.
Well, it's a long journey, really. I think what's different, I guess, is that I spent a long time in corporate media world in the UK. So I had like a 20 plus year career in radio.
Oh, wow.
In the corporate world in the UK. So I was in the sales departments of the biggest radio groups in the UK. So the big radio group in the UK is called Global Radio, and their brands are Heart FM, and they're the big radio brands in the UK. So I was in that world for 20 years. I was in the sales world, and I'd reached a point where I was kind of like, it was the biggest radio group. I was probably, being humble, one of, or probably the top sales guy in the UK for those guys. And honestly, the corporate world, despite being in it a long time, it just got to the point where it was, you weren't really successful based on how good you were at your job. It was a sort of equal focus between how good are you at your job and how good are you at the politics side of things. And it just sort of, that wears a little thin. So after a while, you just had this I just had this desire to do things a bit differently and just be able to be in a bit more control of my own gig and do things with better values and much better sort of, the way you treat people is really important. And, you know, being in the corporate world for 20 plus years, you see the good, the bad and the ugly of management. You see really bad recruitment policies, you see great teams, you see unsuccessful teams. So I'd kind of seen all of it from all ends of the scale and had a real desire to do something on our terms, if you like. And I sort of refer to our and we when I talk about the agency, because we set up the agency with Kate and I, who's my partner and my wife as well. So we work in the business together. So we set up the agency back in 2015. And it was very different then. It was kind of, I'd worked at an agency actually in Bristol, and we had like a bit of a painful experience there. I'd had a painful experience there, and I'd gone from my corporate career to this agency because they'd offered me that opportunity to be part of the structure and part of the decision making, and to be a bit, a step towards being more in control of my own destiny. The deal we had was I would bring in a certain amount of money and profits, and then that agency would then hand over an element or a percentage of the agency as we grew. And I kept my end of the deal, and then they turned around and said, we don't give you anything of the agency. So that was a painful experience, but it was a good one and taught me a lot. And again, just highlighted how if you treat people right or treat people badly has a big effect on how successful you are and how you grow your team. So we started in 2015, this agency, Shed, and at the time we were doing a much broader range of services. We were doing media buying, radio, we were doing web development, we were offering all kinds of services. So obviously having to partner with people to do that throughout. So that's kind of, how I got to the entrepreneurial, how I got to the, launching our own business.
Yeah. So it was you and Kate, and you started with 2, and now you have a whole team. So
yeah. So
tell
I
us
was
all
kind of
about
count
it.
up, and we have 10 now. We have
Amazing.
10 people. Yeah, which has been, and the recruitment of those guys has been, we've had to work at our recruitment policy, I guess. And we've certainly made some great decisions, and we've made some decisions that didn't work out. But, our ethos has always been, and from the very start, from when we started the agency with just the 2 of us, it was, we wanted to prove that you could be successful by treating people like decent human beings, and having really good values, and just treating people how you would expect to be treated, and be fair with people, and just treat people as adults, and give people enough space to grow and develop and do their job as you would hope them to do it. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey to where we are now.
And Taylor and I talk with some people, just even on this podcast. And I know Taylor's networking every day, but that is such a unique approach. And I feel like maybe it came from a little mistreating, and then, you guys learned from that. When you guys did grow your team and keeping your values in mind, how did you go from Matt and Kate to that first hire? What was so important to you I can imagine you were probably drowning and trying to keep your head above water, but how did you know who to hire next?
It was an interesting one, really, because we were talking about this. Kate and I were discussing this yesterday. We were saying how we've changed our recruitment policy now to how it was then, back when we started out. And I suppose the key difference back then was, it was really noticeable in trying to grow the business physically in revenues. My background is sales, so I never had a problem ringing people and getting on the phone, but networking and standing up in front of people, I'm actually quite introverted, so I find that sales is quite a safe place to hide, because you ask all the questions and get other people to do all the talking. So standing on a podcast and talking about myself is like way out of my comfort zone.
Whoops.
But what the big difference was, I noticed when I was calling from Matt from Shed on the first day and the first week of the new agency, I realized how much identity and how much the brand names of the corporate world open doors for you. Those big brand names that pretty much everybody in the UK had heard of because they're national radio stations, they really open doors. And to suddenly realize that you don't have that behind you anymore was quite a learn, and quite a, oh my goodness. So it was quite a crisis in confidence for me as a salesperson, because then we had to find something else to be able to open doors. And we just kept coming back to our values of integrity and transparency and doing the right thing by people. And I started to talk about those sorts of values on sales calls with people, and that seemed to help. But the challenge at the time was that we were sort of trying to be all things to all people. And so our recruitment policy was based on, what do we need, or who do we hire because we think we're getting more business based in that element. So our first hire was a graphic designer, and the next hire after that was a marketing copywriter, and they were areas that we felt were where we could grow the business. But we've always wanted to, the recruitment policy has always been, are they a good fit to work in this business? Do they share our values? And are they people that we want, to trust and get on with the business? Because the way we try and treat people is always, you're adults, you can do the job how you want to do it. Working hours are really your own, you set your own working hours, but so long as the job is done and the clients are happy, then, go to yoga on a Wednesday morning, whatever. And so that was always the intention. And so that's where our first sort of hires came, was stick by those values and find the people where we think the business is. And as we sort of started to grow, we realized that we were actually being all things to all people is a really difficult sell. It's a really difficult thing to pick up the phone and say, hi, it's Matt from Shed. I want to help you with something. And because I couldn't hang my hat on that thing, it was quite difficult to grow the business at that point. So that's when we started to niche down into just doing Facebook and Instagram ads. So pretty quickly we were like, okay, we need to be able to hang our hat on something and become, and we were doing a lot of Facebook ads and getting good success with them. So we decided to just expand on that and grow that. So the recruitment policy is, we've made some great hires. We've made some hires that didn't really work out. And I suppose when you start to dig down in it a little bit, the trust thing and it's got to be a two-way street. So when we say, listen, you just work on your own timescales and do the work when you need to, those people have got to understand that sometimes when there's a client brief needs to be completed and it's 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, 7 o'clock it just needs to be done. But equally, if you want to go surfing before work, go surfing, or go surfing in the morning, so it's that sort of flexibility. And sometimes it's difficult to pick that out. And sometimes you see, well, these people, it seems like they're a good fit, but sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are. But the people we've hired that have been a good fit have generally been with us a long time, and we don't have that much churn for a relatively small business. We don't have that much churn of staff, really.
Yeah, that means something. That means behind the scenes, good stuff is happening and people are feeling fulfilled and just happy to be at work. So congrats to you. That's a hard thing to do.
I know Taylor and I often call it, like that it factor or something, or they understand kind of these, like you said, flexible lifestyle, remote working. You aren't in the same office to I don't know, ping ideas or ask for help or, so we're always kind of chasing that unicorn too, or so they say. But like Shed, I feel like we have a good stack of unicorns in our roster. And when you kind of find those people, you really want to invest in them and help them grow and make sure that, they're kind of like you said, Taylor, super fulfilled and, they want to grow together. So is there any sort of secret sauce to, I don't know, keep them a long time and keep them happy and fulfilled?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's secret sauce, but where we found success is, and this is both in our recruitment and in growing the business and developing the business. First and foremost, we always stick by our values, and that's really our niche in terms. So lots of people niche down even within just running Facebook ads, and some people just niche into e-commerce or lead generation or whatever. Our niche isn't really either one of those. Our niche is dealing with people who clients who very much share our values. So when I'm on calls, sort of talking to potential new clients, we talk about our values, our integrity and our insights. We talk about insights with integrity and how we go about, supporting that within the team and within the business. And so everything we do is focused around our values. And that's the same for when we come to our team and how we invest in them. And I guess the biggest step change of when we started to grow the business was when, I started to get outside support and outside tribes and starting to have that sort of network of people. So this is, where I met Taylor is in the mastermind group is a great resource to me to be able to, talk about frustrations or problems or share wins and share successes, learn from people, share ideas. And I've grown and the business has grown dramatically since doing that sort of 2 years ago, whatever, because I think we were at a point 2 years ago where we'd sort of increased the head count, but we were back down to 3 people 2 years ago. So in the last 2 years, we've gone from 2 to 10. And that accelerated growth has come from that shared experience and that external support. So we want to provide that for all our team members. And sometimes we hire people and we think they are absolutely the finished article and they are brilliant at what they do, but everybody needs that support. So, whether it's different levels of the academy and the mastermind that Taylor are on. All our ad buyers are in groups there that they can get support. Account manager, client services director, who's obviously reaches out with you guys. And that external support is really, really important, because whether or not we think they need it, it doesn't really matter, because I suppose we found that when Kate and I were doing training, it was always that potential that the training could get dropped because there was a client deadline or something like that. Whereas if it's an external resource, and whether or not we feel, you know, the guys need it or not, it doesn't really matter, but it's just somewhere where the guys can go and have a space, have a tribe, have somewhere to ask questions, share ideas, learn new ideas. And I think everybody in the team needs that. So I suppose from the start, when I started to see the success that we were having from being able to have that, it was really important straight away that we offered that to all our team.
Nice.
And that's,
Yeah,
I suppose,
and
it makes a big difference.
And it takes a weight off of you and Kate, right? Because you're not having to have all of the answers, and you can confidently say, well, go to the group and ask the question, or go to Dot and Co's team and ask them what you should do. And
Sure.
it's just kind of, it's not all about you anymore, which is kind of a nice feeling as the agency owner, I bet.
You know, it's an amazing feeling. The best feeling in the world is when one of the team comes to you and says, we had a problem, but we sorted it out, and we spoke to so-and-so, or we spoke to this group or that group, or we came and spoke to Dot and Co, or, you know, I reached out in my group and we've solved the problem. And when the problem is solved before I even know about it, oh, I love that.
Right? Like, I didn't even have to help you with that.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I always like to ask for a little bit of the juicy gossip too, just the tea, as they say. So
is that a
there
saying
must,
in the UK?
well, no,
tea?
in
Oh.
here, in here.
In here.
But it would be good for the UK because, of
Well,
course,
it could
the tea.
start here.
Yeah, it could start, but then
Give
people
us
might
the
think it's
tea.
real tea, and yeah. But of course, you've made or even worked with clients that maybe seemed to be aligned, same values, and maybe they ended up not being. So tell us, what do you do when you're kind of figured out and they're not a right fit, and they're actually not aligned, and they're bringing the team down, and all those kind of maybe negative things? Like, what's the next step for Shed when somebody's not aligned?
It's really clear. We absolutely respectfully just let them go.
Yeah.
And I suppose it feels quite easy to say that now, because we're in a position where and we're in a position where, you know, we can do that confidently. And definitely at the start, we would take business sometimes that was bad business, because you were feeling like you needed it, and, you know, cash flow and all of those things, and you've got, you know, staff costs, etc. So I think you are more inclined to take business sometimes when you're at the beginning of that journey that you shouldn't really take. But again, it's a learn, isn't it? You get to know that those clients, they inevitably take up more time. If they're not a good fit, then they're never really going to be happy. So you can spend so much time making those, or trying to make those people happy. And my belief is, without doubt, that if you can take that much time and effort, instead of trying to make those people happy, but super serving your other clients or trying to find new clients, that revenue,
your energy can go somewhere else, more productive.
And the revenue that you might lose in the short term by saying goodbye to some of those clients, and we've done it a few times, you know, and it's quite liberating. It is, you know.
Yeah.
And the first time we ever did it, I remember the first time we ever did it, and it was a client who was on the service of it, a great client and great business, and was a great retainer fee as well. I think it was probably at the time, it was, you know, one of our highest retainer fees, but it was a great piece of business for us. But pretty quickly it turned out that the values just didn't align, and it wasn't a great fit. So to be able to be in a position to say to that client, listen, you know, we would love to work with you, but it doesn't feel like we don't feel like we're a great fit, and our values don't align, and we wish you all the luck, you know, in finding a great partner, but I think our time is done here. It's it's not an easy conversation to have, but it's very liberating and it's great for the agency.
I think it's super important. Like, of course, Taylor and I always think just client facing, and those sort of the roots of those, or like the seedlings of those sort of telling, they come up through the client account manager for sure, because they're the one interacting with the client and they're the one kind of taking the heat if that's it, or, you know, on the receiving end. And it's so great to hear you, Matt, say that you do kind of have this core values that is so important, because we have all worked with agencies that take on real crummy clients because of reasons like revenue, like, you know, whatever it might be. And then you're kind of stuck, or then there's the client account manager just, you know, absorbing it all, but bringing morale down. And like, then you have to go to the media buyer and you're kind of like, they're coming in hot, and then media buyers can just get so sensitive about their like direct work. So it's such a circle waterfall situation. And I just find that super valuable, because Taylor and I both know people that don't always practice that. And it's not a bad thing. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah,
but it's just so reassuring,
isn't it? I had a message from one of my team, or it was a couple of months ago now, where we had a client that was, I won't say they don't fit and they're not a good alignment with our values, but there's just times when there's friction with that client, and we very much stick together as a team and we have each other's backs. So we, you know, had a conversation with the client to say that, you know, the way you're talking to the team or the way you're addressing us just isn't acceptable. We need to change this. And the message I had from the team was, from one of the guys in the team was, it's just so great to know that you've got our back.
Yeah.
And that just builds a really strong team when everyone feels like that, you know. Well, I hope so anyway. I think it does. So
no, definitely. And to just, I guess, even be like, you can, you know, send emails and internal Slack channels, and you can talk about this awful client, but feel supported in that way. But it's not really support, because you're still in it and you're talking about it, and it's so much energy. So I think that's definitely not even some good advice, but definitely a best practice. And I can imagine the team appreciates it at the very least, but probably makes your life a whole lot easier as well.
Yeah, well, do you know what? The team are great. We've got a brilliant team, and the work they do as a team for the company, they're brilliant, and I wouldn't change it at all. And so that's where I get the reward, is that to see that those guys are working together and all pulling in the same direction, and they've got the flexibility to do what they want when they want. If they want to take the dog out for a walk, or, as I say, you know, as a guy who he might go surfing, but to be able to have that responsibility enough to know when they can make the decision about when they can do those things, and when's the right time to do it, and when's the right time to focus on their clients, etc. So generally we aim to breed a good relationship with everybody in the team. So
yeah. So Matt, I know a lot of agency owners listening are kind of at this beginning stages of their agency, starting to scale up and think about bringing on team members. So any advice for the agency owner who's kind of getting started and they need to take that next leap to hire someone, whether it's a contractor or in-house full-time? Any advice for just getting to that next stage?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's important is that you recognize what it is in the agency that you enjoy doing and what it is you don't enjoy. Because if you're at the early stages and you're making your first hire or your second hire, it's got to be the right person in terms of structure. And my background has always been sales, and I still do the sales for us. So, you know, it was the last hire I would ever make is sales. And at some point, you know, we will do that. But so what's important is recognizing what you're good at, what you enjoy, and then the things that where perhaps it's a weakness of yours, or it's, you know, something you don't enjoy. And because those things can make a huge difference. And, you know, you've got, I suppose, two elements for a digital agency. You've got someone who's actually doing the implementation, and, you know, you'll get to your capacity is certain, you know, pretty quickly. So you might need one of those people in. But I think, I mean, for us, what was important is keeping to those core values, and whoever it is and whatever department they're in, It's just making that sure for us, they fitted with our core values of, integrity and treating people well and doing the right thing by people. And that was what was important for us. And that's what worked for us, really.
Yeah. It sounds like it kind of happened, like your growth happened rapidly, but organically in a way. Like it sounds like you've hired in a way that just works for your agency and it's not.
Yeah, I think the blueprint for hiring has got to be fairly unique. It's got to be what works for you. And the timing of it is really important. We've brought people on board who are, like Mags, who you've met, super experienced, really knowledgeable, great at what she does. And so she's at one end of the scale of that. And then we've got other people who are at the beginning of their journey, but the timing was right for us to have a more junior person that could come on and sort of learn the ropes a little bit and develop and grow with us. So I think it's got to be unique to your agency. I think it's what's right for you, and timing wise, who is it, who's right, and when, and what is it you want them to do. We're recruiting at the moment. We're looking for someone to join the team, and we as you imagine, we've had hundreds of applications, and what we're looking for is the person that is going to fit in with our team, and the other bits we can teach. We can teach the Facebook ads, and they need a basic knowledge, of course, but we can take them to the next level and teach them how we do it at Shed and what's different about how we do it. But what's important is that they fit in with the team, and the attitude and the aptitude is vital,
I love that. And I think like for us as well, like when we're hiring, obviously we're hiring completely different people than someone at Shed, but it's our values, it's Dot's values versus Shed's. And I think it's so unique to see how every different agency has their own kind of set of values and just those gut checks before hiring. And it's really cool to see how when you look at a team and you're like, wow, all those people are so similar, but you can't really put your finger on why. And you just know in your gut feeling of like, these people are just like me, like their values are the same. Maybe we don't do all the same things outside of work or eat the same breakfast, but we, believe in the same things, and we put ourselves on the same level, I guess, of expectations from ourselves and from each other.
And we recognize that in other businesses and other people. So when looking for those support networks I talked about, and those external resources, those external groups that we want to be part of and want our team to be part of, it's important that we look to a company. So Dot & Co, we look at you guys and think, well, there's definitely a real alignment of values there. So we would happily introduce our team to you guys, because we know there's a common ground and a common approach to life and approach to business, So it's really important that all of our exterior providers share those similar values.
I like that too, Matt. Inspirational for sure.
Amazing. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt, for coming on our podcast. This was such a light, heartwarming conversation just around values and hiring and making sure that people are on the same page. So where can our listeners find you at Shed and get to know you guys a little bit further?
Sure. Well, our web address is shedsocial.co.uk, and our socials are at the Shed Social or Shed Social on Facebook. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. And if you go to our website, you can find all the links there. So
love it. Yeah, definitely reach out if you're looking for support on Facebook ads and Instagram ads. And thank you so much again, Matt, for coming on.
For a job as well.
Yeah, if you're looking for a job.
If you're looking to join a great team, then we are hiring.
Do you have all these values? Contact Matt today. Perfect.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Matt. This was great.
Yeah.
Until next time, cheers to happy clients.